So here it goes. I'm well off. I have a family of 5, and a few months ago I was contacted by my biological daughter, nearly adult, after she found out my info. We met up in a public place and honestly had a great time. We talked and shared stories, and I told her how everything went down with her other biological parent and why we needed to give her up for adoption at the time. She seems happy with where she is, and she appeared to be happy with my answers. Although I understand it took time to process, she told me how she didn't want to go to college or university, but instead work on her music career and her side business with a part-time job she has. Her parents seemed okay with this, as long as she's making money. Well, there's that. I don't have the right to interfere, but I did give her advice and say she shouldn't rule out college, just so she has something to fall back on. She laughed it off, and we moved on. Anyways, fast forward to 2 weeks ago, she came to my place. I should note again that I am well off. My company grew way past my expectations, and I can proudly say I live a lavish life with good cars, etc. She stayed over and met my family. They got on well with the kids and my wife loved her. 2 days ago, she called me saying she took my advice and she's been applying to different schools and looking at other accommodations. She told me some of the schools and I'm familiar with them, and she showed me some costly accommodations. I told her I was proud of what she wanted to study. She said she wanted to study the arts. Well, I said that's great and her parents must really be happy. She agreed and was silent. Finally, I asked her if she was okay and she blatantly said, "Well, will you help me pay for it?" I was speechless. I didn't really know what to say, and I told her that wasn't an easy question. Then she hit me with the, "Well, I thought since you're my dad and you left me when you couldn't take care of me, and now you have everything you can, that you'd want to." I asked her, what about her parents? She said, they don't have enough. I told her I'd need to think about it, and he left the call. I reviewed it with my wife, who also doesn't think it's a good idea. We have 3 kids who need to go as well, and there are so many other finances between and after that. We have the money, but we planned for just 3 kids, including any type of emergency that may happen. I texted her last night that I won't be able to do it, and she blew up. She told me that I had the chance to do what was right, but I screwed up again. I feel terrible. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. Absolutely not. As if both of her biological parents gave her up for adoption and terminated rights legally. She has now been adopted and raised by other people. She's their responsibility, not yours. Sure, I can see why she'd be angry. And she probably thinks, you chose to keep your 3 kids. So why did you not choose to keep me? But she isn't entitled to your money at all. I think she's angry that this rich man came into her life, gave her hope for a new future, then pulled the rug out from underneath her. Listen, if he doesn't want a relationship, he should say that, but he can't act like he has nothing to do with her now that there are expectations. You are the idiot, OPO. You're messing up with this poor child. Please. You didn't screw up the first time. You and your ex made the right choice, and it sounds like she had a good life. This isn't a daddy who walked out on me and left me to struggle situation. Up went through the correct avenues to have them adopted as they couldn't give them an appropriate life, and she's now the responsibility of her own parents. She can't apply for financial aid, and if you feel up to helping her out with books or something, that's your choice, but she can't force you. The way you said multiple times, I have 3 kids, my kids need to go too, that even hurt me. Actually, like she's a dog you gave to someone as a puppy, and now you only have children you decided to keep. So I guess she was the unlucky one, huh? For this, you are the idiot. I don't think you're on the hook for the college of her dreams, but neither are you morally free to walk away with your riches. A 40-year-old female have 3 children, 21-year-old female, 19-year-old female, and 18-year-old male, and my 18-year-old male with my ex-husband. At point we split 10 years ago, and I've been with my wife for 6 years. She has a daughter, Ruby, a young teen from her previous marriage. My ex-husband and I are in an excellent financial position, and we agreed after the divorce that on each child's 18th birthday, we would give 3 gift options, and they would have to choose one. Are valued up to $20, a trip, or we would furnish the house they were living in. Ike's and I paid half and half. Recently, my youngest son asked for a trip. I met Ruby when she was a pre-tween. My wife has 50-50 custody, and since we married and lived together, I've had a good relationship with Ruby. My wife and ex-husband are not in such an ideal financial situation, and I pay 70% of the household expenses. My youngest son came to visit me this week, and he started telling me that he was planning to visit various countries in Europe, and at some point he mentioned that he looked forward to being 18 years old to get this gift. Just like his siblings, to be heard. Yesterday, Ruby said she wanted to talk to me. She wanted a birthday party and asked if I could even advance her 18th birthday present to have a nice party. I was a little embarrassed, but I tried to explain that this was an arrangement between my ex-husband and me, and we've been collecting this amount for almost 10 years for each kid, and that I hadn't talked to her mother about it, but I made it very clear that she couldn't have it early. But I made it very clear that if her parents agreed, we could share and have a nice party. She looked disappointed but said it was okay. My wife started yelling at me, saying that I shouldn't have made my favoritism clear to her children, and that it was mean to say that to her daughter, knowing that her parents are not so financially simple. And now Ruby's asking her parents to help and says I would too. She said that now I should have to pay 60% of the party since I came up with the idea. I said that I didn't know about the plans, or whether they had Ruby turning 18 as they decided Ruby's things between them alone. And I pointed out that even though I love Ruby, I pay 60% of the party, money I don't have. It's not very fair since she has her parents. Besides, my children's gifts were years in the making, and now at the moment I have nothing saved for it. My wife is complaining about favoritism, but I don't really think that's the case. Ruby's angry at her parents, not me, and they want her to get a big gift on her birthday, so they want her treated special. Your kids didn't get their gifts at her age. Even if you were willing to include her in the 18-year-old gift, Ruby is not your child, and her parents are responsible for her. You're already supporting her and providing a nice life for her. It never ceases to amaze me when there are two bio parents and they expect the step-parent to take care of their child. I think your wife is angry because there's more pressure to provide something unplanned. Why not agree to save or set up something for your stepdaughter for her 18th birthday? You have a few years to save anyway. It doesn't have to be as grand as what you promised, but doing nothing is heartbreaking for your stepdaughter. I think she's confusing favoritism with responsibility. You have an obligation to your children shared with your ex for which you've spent years saving for. She has the responsibility for her child shared with her ex which she's not saved for. Your wife is just projecting her insecurities on her inadequate financial planning on you, likely expecting you to pick up the slack like you already do with your living expenses. Your wife sounds very entitled. Please tell me you have a prenup. If not, get a postnup. I, a 22-year-old male, have an older sister, 26. Last year, she lost a pregnancy. She has one daughter, my young niece, and a nephew who passed away of heart failure 5 years ago. During my sister's pregnancy loss, my wife was 1 month pregnant. So during my wife's pregnancy, she had to avoid any family gatherings because if my sister were there, she'd start crying and screaming about how heartless my wife was for rubbing it in her face. My wife really never cared that much because she told me she didn't want to hurt my sister. It annoyed me because my wife and I weren't even able to speak about the pregnancy, nor were our family members. We weren't allowed to have a gender reveal or a baby shower because when she found out we were planning to, she called me screaming, saying that I had no consideration for her. She told me she'd never let me see my niece again if I even dared to have one. This was our first child, so of course we were upset but didn't say anything. When it got too much for me was when my wife asked my mom to be with her in the delivery room since her mom couldn't travel due to restrictions. His wife ended up telling my sister, and she freaked out. It turned into her telling my mother that she had no care in the world for her late grandbaby, and since she didn't care, she should never see my niece again. Then it turned into asking me how I could do this to her. Then it turned into calling my wife an attention-seeking idiot. I ended up not talking to her for months because of that one incident. My mother was in the delivery room anyway, but she had to tell my sister she hadn't been. But everyone else knew except my sister. My infant son recently reached a milestone age, so my wife decided to do a mini photo shoot with him in a giraffe costume, and she sent it to my aunt, who posted it on her Facebook account. My sister hadn't met my son until this point because she refused to. But revengestories. When she saw that my wife and I were tagged, she called me, telling me that I knew she had a loss and that I was flaunting the fact that I had a healthy son. Then she started laughing on the phone, telling me that either way, her son would have probably been 10 times cuter than my wife and I have. My wife is Mexican. At this point, I got fed up and told her that her loss was more than a year ago, that I didn't care anymore, and that she should go somewhere else to get a pity party. My mom and dad called me yelling at me and asking what I had done, because my sister had called them wailing. explained it to them, and they're still upset at me, telling me I should have said something nicer and tried to get her to calm down. Your sister needs serious counseling, and the rest of your family needs to stop enabling and/or pot-stirring your brother and his wife. I think the way your family has treated my wife is especially shameful. I'm guessing some of this is due to her being of a different nationality. The family enabling Up's sister is probably what caused her to even act like this. Such a loss does suck, but using that as an excuse to seek or take attention off others for the rest of your life is bizarre. I understand that people grieve differently, but she's making life impossible for her brother and sister-in-law at this point. The family must stop letting her feel like the world revolves around her and making everyone else walk on eggshells. One person is being forgotten here, her own child. If the sister's acting like this over the phone and in public settings, she is a little girl. How much is this little girl seeing her mom's reaction? The screaming, crying, and complaining over the phone. Saying crap about how her lost baby would have been so much more adorable. Heck, how's she acting at home? While losing a child in pregnancy is heartbreaking, sister needs some really deep therapy. She's harming her own family, controlling them, but how badly is she affecting her own living child? Recently, my girlfriend posted some pictures of our 2-year anniversary online to share with her friends and acquaintances. She said most of the comments were nice, but 3 women were former classmates of hers who seemed very jealous of her. She read me their comments, and one said she didn't deserve to have such a hot boyfriend and that I should be with her instead. Another one said she was too geeky and I'd leave her for a prettier girl like her eventually, and the other one was in a similar vein. Of course, I didn't think they were too kind, but I still felt flattered about it. So I told her I found that pretty flattering and that she shouldn't worry about it. She then asked me how that was flattering and claimed they were insulting her. So while I don't think it's too kind, I don't think it's really insulting. They're just envious of our happiness and would want the same for themselves. Am I the idiot for not taking offense? You're the idiot. And whoa, holy narcissism. Well, buddy, newsflash. The sheer fact that you find those comments flattering means your girlfriend is too good for you and deserves more than your sorry butt. You have a giant ego and you do not value your girlfriend because you don't seem to be bothered by people insulting her. It makes me wonder if you think you're too good for her. Bro, your girlfriend's not friends made comments insinuating you're too good for her and too hot for her and that you'll leave her. This made her feel insecure and threatened. Instead of ignoring it or reassuring her or calling them names with her, you puffed out your chest and told her how nice it was for them to say you're too hot and too good for her. Oh no, that is not what they were saying at all. Agree, I don't think the comments were actually about you, but they were bullying your girlfriend. I think it could have been almost anyone else in that photo, and they'd be the same comments. It's also rather insulting to her that this is what you took from those comments. They wanted to hurt her with those words. Thinks I'd encourage her to block them and move on, but you've taken the wrong thing from those comments. My dad married this woman called Leah when I was a teen. Leah had a toddler daughter at the time. My mom died when I was little. I was never close to Leah or daughter, and my dad and I had a relationship that was not so great, so I moved out and didn't speak to them again. Then a year after I moved out, I got a call that my dad and his wife had died, and Leah's daughter had no family who wanted to take her. Her mom's family said no bio father was found, and my dad's family didn't want her either. I was mentioned to them as a sibling, and they wanted to see if I wanted her. I said no. She was bounced around a lot, but now has settled into a foster family. Her foster family knows about me, and apparently so does Leah's daughter, who's told them that I'm her sister. So Leah's mother tracked me down on social media and said she wanted to facilitate some sibling relationship. I told her that we're not siblings. I had barely known her, and she was a step-sibling I had not grown up with, and I wasn't interested in one now. She said that I was still part of the nuclear family she had before her parents died. I told her I was not. She then told me I should be ashamed of myself for rejecting her, that her whole family rejected her, and how awful we all are. I told her to screw off. I owed her the least because we're not family, and she should chase after Leah's family if she wants to attack someone. She accused me of being hostile. Ignored her instead of getting so mad about it because she's doing what nobody else wants to do. They're funny how often people will get no and then argue, get some more no, and then argue some more, and then get screw off. And then they're like, gosh, you didn't have to say it like that. I did. I tried telling you nicely, and you, who don't know me at all, disregarded what I said and tried to make something that isn't a part of me or my problem into my problem. If you don't want people to tell you to screw off, then maybe hear them the first couple of times they tell you no. I don't know the legalities involved in a foster parent situation, but I think she should have contacted the child social worker instead of contacting you directly. If she contacts you again, I think you should try to find the social worker and report this. She's overstepping and harassing you. I feel for the little girl, but no one should tell you how to feel or how to handle this. That's your decision. It sucks for Leah's daughter, but just asking some random person to connect with her seems risky. They don't know anything about you, just that you were a stepsister. You could be. I'm not saying you are a terrible influence and cause more trauma for all this woman knows. Why can't her bio family at least attempt to visit her in the foster home? Why is this supposedly your responsibility?